Linda's Pantry, and today I am going to be canning a delicious spiced tomato soup, and that's out of the Ball Canning book, Guide to Preserving. So these books are readily available. I'll have an Amazon link for you. It's on page 106, and it was a toss-up. I'm going to do a little bit of modification to the recipe, but all in the safety parameters. So these tomatoes are garden fresh, and we need to use them before we lose them. I did lose a couple of them. You know, if they get damaged when you pick them at all, and that stem isn't left intact, bacteria gets in there and it starts decaying. So I lost a couple, but not too bad. Let's see, spiced tomato soup. I like roasted tomato soup, and because these have the skins on, and they're you know, these are small romas. They're not big, huge romas. Blanching and peeling, nah. I'm gonna take the core out at the ends in the core after I soak them in vinegar water. My sink is already full of cold water, vinegar, about 2 cups of vinegar in that big sink of water to really get these clean, and a little bit of veggie wash, okay? Then we're gonna rinse them, drain them, and we'll be ready to roast them. So that's a variation of the recipe. I'm also swapping out, it calls for red bell pepper. I'm swapping out poblano and Anaheim pepper, because spiced tomato soup, it's got cloves in here. I'm going to probably, like just a pinch. I'm not going to do a teaspoon of whole cloves. That to me sounds like excessive. I'm out of celery. So while the tomatoes are soaking, and it also calls for onions and carrots, but it calls for a substantial amount of celery. And I have celery down in the greenhouse, but it is pouring down rain, and I know there's not enough to equate what I'm gonna need. So while they're soaking, I'm going to the store to get my celery. And let's see, this will be pressure canned, so you're gonna need to get jars and lids and bands and pressure canner and all that done. It's gonna pressure can for 20 minutes. I'm doing this in pint jars because that's the perfect amount for me to open a jar at work, add a little bit of heavy cream, and I have the most delicious soup. And so it's one of my favorite soups. So I gotta have it on the shelf. All right, let's get started and get these tomatoes washed, and I'll be back when we're ready to start chopping up some veggies. Okay, so these tomatoes have soaked. I'm back from the store, and I'm gonna get them onto a sheet pan. I'm gonna roast the tomatoes, the onions, and the peppers, only because it is so delicious this way, and you are left with just a wonderful product. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the core out of these tomatoes, just cut that core out. And there's not too big of a core, just get that core out. The skins are gonna slip off right after we roast these, right? So if the tomato's real small and it really doesn't have a core, you can leave that in if you like. Like this, these little ones, you don't really need to, just cut the ends off. This one is a little bit of I think this was a beef steak, I'm not sure. Came from my friend down the road. Should have asked him if he had any more today. I'm making it into soup. Anyways, that's how this is gonna go. I'm just inspecting each tomato again. I've really washed these well. So the first tray of tomatoes and peppers, I did all the peppers that I have. So just in case it measured out differently, but they are in the oven at 400. I ran olive oil, you know, drizzled that across the top, and salt and pepper. And then on this tray will be tomatoes and onion, if I can fit it. If not, the onion will go on a different tray. And we'll get this going. I am going to be able to measure the soup once I put it through the food mill. And I'm probably gonna immersion blend it first, then food mill it. And then it's gonna set long enough that the air will come out of it. So, uh-oh, my dogs are trying to play. There's paper down on the floor, so to protect the floor from the drywall. So it sounds like a herd of elephants in here. Anyway, all right, I just letting you know what I'm doing, and then I'm gonna get to chopping some. I'm gonna cut the onions in half. They're gonna get roasted, and the celery and carrots don't need to be roasted, but the tomatoes, garlic, and onions, yes ma'am. And we're going to acidify. This recipe does not call to acidify, and it is a pressure canning recipe, but I'm telling you, I really, just to stay on the safe side, because I am adding garlic, I am going to acidify with citric acid. Or you could use a tablespoon of lemon juice in a pint jar, 2 tablespoons per quart. Okay, so the second tray, very full tray of tomatoes, is going in the oven. Again, I drizzled with olive oil, the salt and pepper liberally, and it's going in the oven with the other tray. And then I'll have but yet a third tray, which will have the onions and the garlic. So all going in to roast. And sometimes it takes about 20 to 30 minutes. So we'll be back when it's done. Okay, so I have 1 pan of tomatoes out of the oven. I'm gonna let that cool because I don't want to burn myself. And there's a lot of juice. So don't discard the juice to make your soup thicker. You're better off to cook it down for extended periods of time if you want it thicker, because there's a lot of acidification in that juice. So you're throwing out your acid. You want to make sure that we have plenty of acid in this to be able to can it safely. We're not water bath canning though, so it takes some of that out. My peppers roasted on that as well. I took them out a few minutes ago, and we're gonna get the skins off of them, because peppers and tomatoes have, just the skin gets tough. It's not good. So these have steeped in their own steam for a few minutes, and I'm just gonna get the skins off. And they're still hot. They're really hot. Okay. Oh, you can't really see what I'm doing, so I'm gonna bring you in close. Hold on. Hold, please. Okay. So you're just gonna, where the skin is loose and charred, you just pull it right off, just like that. It just peels right off, that pepper. And these are thick-walled poblano peppers, so you definitely want the skins off, because they would end up really tough and leathery, and that's what tomatoes do too. Now you can rinse these underneath the water to get all the seeds out, and that's probably over at the sink. That's probably what I'm gonna do. But I'm gonna get as much of the flesh as I can, and I'll just put it back in this bowl. That way I know I'm not throwing that away. And I'm gonna keep working. I may have to let these cool a little bit to finish the job, because they are screaming hot. Okay, so all the tomatoes are out of the oven, and I'm just scooping so it makes it easier to manage them up here. And then I will use all of the juice that came from these, and these trays are full of juice. My peppers are in there. I'm just gonna run these through the food mill. Now I will have to puree the soup further and make it very smooth with the carrots and the celery, because, well, it's gonna, and the onions and the garlic. The garlic will puree really easily because it's roasted. I think I just lost a pepper down there. That's okay. This is making pretty quick work of this, actually. If you have an electric food mill, you can use one of those. You can, don't skip the step of skinning though, because first off, you get tough skins, and I don't like that. But we also, that is where botulism can harbor, is in the skins of your vegetables. So that's why they always have you skin tomatoes and root vegetables and all of that, because, well, you're gonna end up with a better product in the end. All right. This is, whoa, I almost lost the whole pan. That wouldn't have been good. Oh, I didn't even get a drop on the floor. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy about that. And my space is so limited right now. My counter space and what I've got going here with construction. I'm just not, here, I'm gonna move this over so the pan can sit better. There we go. Now, and if it's gonna try to escape, don't let it. If you have to, you're gonna have to back it off. And I think it's because of the peppers. And they're just not going through there as well. But we will get plenty of pepper in here. So we'll get this batch, and then I will empty the hopper here and get the tomatoes done quick. Okay, so I did want to tell you, if you scoop them off and they're hot, you can see the steam coming off of there, but then the pan cools down and you're able to get all the juice and seasoning and olive oil off your pan, and these pans wash up really nice. And I've also got my roasted garlic and onions here, and they really got some caramelization on them. It's a little bit of char even, but the garlic I'm just gonna squeeze right out of the little cloves. Roasted garlic. All right, we're almost to the halfway point on this 12-quart stock pot. Okay, so we've got our tomatoes all pure. Oh, look at how beautiful that looks already. And once this gets pureed, it's even gonna be better. So I've got my carrots and celery measured out, and that was 2.5 cups of celery, not 3.5. And you needed 3.5 cups of onion. So 2.5 cups of chopped celery. We needed 2 cups of chopped bell pepper. I don't think we got near 2 cups, about 1.5 cups. And you can take stuff out, but you can't add. Hold, please. I hope, if I have to, I will go over this. This is 1 cup of brown sugar. I'm adding 1 cup of white wine because the other recipe calls for, and that is a Sauvignon Blanc. We are going to add some bay leaves. Now I'm going to add 4. It calls for 7. I think that's a little excessive. I'm omitting the cloves completely because I'm afraid one of us won't like it. And this has to simmer until the carrots and celery are soft enough to puree. And it's really a vegetable soup, if you will, only it's going to be a creamy roasted vegetable soup. I'm super excited about that. And it calls for 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'm going to just eyeball my hand. That's too much. Put about half that back. About a teaspoon, because we already salted. And I will taste it before I am ready to can it. And we'll just have to fish out the 4 bay leaves. I am going to add pepper. It does not call for pepper, but I really feel like it needs some pepper. So I'm going to add a good healthy teaspoon of black pepper. And I love the flavor of black pepper. I love it canned. I love it in, I make sure I have plenty of it in my barbecue sauce when I can it. It's just really a good thing to have in there. And then we're just going to let this simmer. I will be back when it's ready to get the immersion blender getting after it. Okay, guys, this is simmered down. It's reduced about 1/2 inch, and it's just been simmering here for about 45 minutes. It should be ready to puree, and I'm excited. We both tasted this, and it has a little hint of the sweet, but the savory definitely comes through, and that's before we even really had cooked. But I've got my immersion blender. If you keep it down towards the bottom of your pan, you'll introduce less air. I'm not going to worry about it because I'm not canning it today. I'm going to can it tomorrow. So as soon as I'm done processing this with the immersion blender, I'll show you what it looks like. I'm going to transfer it to my smaller 5-quart Cuisinart contour pot, and then I can get this washed up, put back in the basement, but we'll be ready to can. All I have to do is heat it up, heat the jars up. My jars are in the dishwasher right now, so tomorrow I will have the canner up here and we'll get to canning some delicious tomato soup for tomato bisque. And this viscosity is perfect for canning, so I'm good with it. Okay, let's get a little sippy sip clean spoon. Ooh, it's gonna be hot. And all the little flecks are the charred bits off of the peppers and the onions. And well, there's black pepper, but I use fine grind black pepper. So let's give it a taste. And all of your wine is cooked off by now and just left the flavor, if that makes sense. So, wow, that is very, very good. I am so impressed. And that little bit of sweetness, I've never put brown sugar in mine before, but I really like it. It cut the acidity of the tomatoes down. So this is going into a smaller stock pot, and it's easier to fit in the refrigerator. And then tomorrow we will bring it back up to temp and get to canning. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. So it's the next day, and I want to tell you what I've done so far. So I let this cool down and I put it in my garage refrigerator overnight, went to work, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to can it up. So it's a prep a day, can a day. It makes canning so much less daunting when you have a pile of other stuff to do. So I did, because the viscosity of it was quite pulpy because of the added vegetables. Typically, I just did tomatoes, garlic, and onions, but because we added carrots and celery and onions, we have some pulp in there. So I ran the whole thing blender by blender full in the blender on just high until it really now has a very nice smooth texture that when I open this and turn it into tomato bisque, we're gonna be thrilled. So now it's time. I've got it hot. My jars are hot in the canner. My canner's hot. I'm gonna do 7 pints, and then whatever's left, we will have for supper tonight. If there's more, because this is a 5-quart pot. So I'm thinking we're gonna get between 9 and 10 pints. I can't see us getting any more than that. And I did want to say, don't forget this video is, I'm using 4 jars lids. So I have a link down below. There's a coupon code there. If you use that code when you check out, you'll get 10% off your complete order. And they have deals going on like you wouldn't believe. Canning season is underway. I've been doing a lot of canning, but to me, canning season is year round. So, okay, I'm gonna bring you in close so you can see how this goes, and we're gonna get tomato soup canning. It goes in the pressure canner, and I'm reading, even though I know these by heart, for pint jars, it's going to pressure can for 20 minutes. That's not a very long time, but honestly and truly, it does take time to heat up the canner, do all this, cool down the canner afterwards, and let your jars come down off of pressure like they're supposed to, very slowly. So it is time consuming, but so worth it in the end to have homemade soup on your shelf. So come on in and let's get to canning. So, I'm super excited because these first 2 jars are actually 4 jars. They make these beautiful square jars. It's got a gorgeous scenery on the front and on the sides and the back. It's just, and measurements, so you know exactly what you've got. So this tomato soup is so good. And I believe we need a 1/2 inch of headspace, but I am going to double check. because you want to make sure you are doing everything correctly. Leave 1 inch of head space. So 1 inch is right to there. I think we're there. So I'm gonna swoop, and we're just gonna double check 1 inch on here is just like that. Oh, we need, and it's hard to see until you get in the light. That's 3/4, sorry. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So this little thing standing upright should touch your food. So the headspace is between the top of the food and the top of the jar. Perfect. And I've got a vinegar soaked paper towel, and we're going to get our hot lids. Now I soak these in hot water because the instructions on your 4 jars tells you to. So I put my finger on the lid, and when I hit resistance and it starts turning the jar, it's perfect. Fingertip tight. In the canner she goes. So excited. And I'll pull out another jar while I'm over here and dump that hot water out, because that's hot. These jars are hot. You want your jars hot, your canner hot and ready. You want your soup hot, whatever you're canning, if you're hot packing anything. So I didn't do any more spices. I did put a little bit of basil in it. That's all I changed. I had a little bit of fresh basil out in my green stock, and I decided, well, might as well put it in there. Tomato soup and basil goes really, really well. I find your fresh herbs, they don't stay as strong in the canning process, so you can add fresh basil when you open the jar too. And I don't see a need to debubble. There's no bubbles in this. It's all liquid. So there you go. She's going in the canner. I'm gonna rinse and repeat 4 more times. And I'm gonna get this jar emptied, and I think we need to grab some more water out of here. Uh-oh. So, there we go. I had a little bit too much water in there. Okay, hope you guys can get the gist of what's going on. It's kind of like oh yeah, we may end up with more than 7 pints, which is just fine. I can do another run. I've got plenty of jars cleaned. Oop. Okay, now I already know I overfilled that jar. I can tell. Yep. So it's now sitting with 1/4 of an inch of headspace. So what do we do in that situation? Get a spoon and fix it, right? And we want to get that inch of headspace. And I like having the bowl with the paper towel down there, because let's get your inch. Yep. Okay, inch of headspace. And if you want to go back and debubble, you're welcome to, for sure. I'm confident that I'm not going to have any issues with bubbles. It's more with solids, when bubbles get trapped with the solids. Okay, in the canner she goes. So excited. And so if you are just starting out canning, just follow all the instructions. Safe canning means a happy canner in the end, because you've done it safely, your family is going to eat safely, and I think I'm going to get more than I thought, which is odd, because you think, oh, well, I could, let's see, I think I need a little bit more here. Just a little bit, but you know, nobody wants to get cheated out of their soup, right? Okay. So if I have to do, oh, well, wipe the rim of that jar, even though I know there's nothing on there. You don't want anything to impede the seal. It really does take a lot, though, to make that happen. Okay. If you ever have a ring that does not want to go on smoothly, toss it because it's not worth it. It will not seal. If it cross threads, it won't seal. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have so much soup. I'll probably do 2 runs, which is good. I'm super excited about that. And I like to swap the jars this way only because, well, it makes sense. Keep the hottest one hot, right? And I have not wasted 1 tomato this year, which makes me extremely happy that I have been able to can all of them. So, all right. And we're gonna can every bit of this soup except what I wanna keep out for dinner. We're having grilled cheese and tomato soup. It's gonna be wonderful. Okay, I'll be back when we're tightening down the canner. Okay, there's about half that pot left. So I'm gonna have another run. It probably won't be a full run, but if I can get 7 pints to put on the shelf, I'm gonna can it and I'll do something else for dinner. So literally all 7 pints, and in this canner, this is the smallest All-American they make. So it'll hold 5 wide mouth jars or 7 regular mouths. So I always can with the regular mouth in this. And I love the look of that jar anyway. So you're gonna wanna put your canner lid on. I always make sure the petcock is clear of anything. I am putting my thumb screws on this way. So I'll be canning another round. I could have brought the bigger All-American canner up here, but I worry about the weight on this glass top stove. So I've used it and it's been fine, but my gas stove is still in the garage until we're done with this remodel, which is coming along, you guys, it's coming along. we're getting there. I wish I could have shown you before and afters, but okay, so I put these on across from each other and then I start. And the reason you do it across from each other is because it's leveling it out. So it's not allowing steam to escape out from under the lid. And if you feel like you need to, you can put we're talking like lip gloss, chapstick, thickness of petroleum jelly around your rim. I haven't had to do that in so long. I can't even remember the last time I did it. But I also don't have any problems with my canners. So this will come up. I've got this on medium, just above medium on my stove. So about a 6. I'm gonna let that come up. When it starts venting some steam, like steady stream, then I'm gonna time that for 10 minutes. That's part of this canning process. It's part of how long this needs to go, so it's safe for you to put on your shelf for the future. So then it will can for 20 minutes once it comes up to pressure, and my pressure is done with a 10-pound weight because of my altitude. So check your altitude. In the ball canning books, there's always a section that tells you all about how to find your altitude, what the pressures are for each altitude. Super important, because if you don't follow those instructions, you take a chance on not being safe. Food safety is huge. If you've ever had a foodborne illness, yeah. I think too many people right now are just throwing, they don't care. They're just risking their families with possibly unsafe canned food. So I don't do that. Tomato soup. Now, I did use parts and pieces of 2 different tomato soup recipes. Both safe, both ready to use, and I feel very confident that it's okay. It's just flavor profiles that are a little different. So I'm gonna clean up part of my mess and let this go. And when I'm done with all the jars, I will bring you back when I'm pulling the last jars out. Guys, it is the next day, and it just got too late last night to do another round. I had 2 jars that did not seal, but I did go back in because after I put this lid on, I realized that I hadn't put the citric acid in. The recipe does not call for it, but I added more garlic. I took away some of the low acid and so just to be on the safe side, I'm putting citric acid in here. And I've made this soup, well, now I guess first time I made it, I want to say was for YouTube, was 6 years ago, and I make it every year. So typically I don't always put the citric acid in, but because we are pressure canning 1 inch of headspace, and then I'm going to, so I took the jars that did not seal and I put them in the refrigerator overnight, and then I poured them into the pot this afternoon when I got home to do this, and now we're gonna can. And tomato products siphon. Oh my gosh, some of them siphoned, some of them didn't. I mean, all the headspace is a little lower, but yeah, some of them had absolutely 0 mess on the jar, and some of them had quite a bit. So I've got my 4 jars lids. I'm going to get that on there, and hopefully this will be a full canner. Ouch, hot. Full canner load. Okay, guys, it's time. It's time. I've let this sit here about, I don't know, another 10 minutes. There is no steam even coming out of the canner. It feels warm, but I know that I've let it cool down sufficiently. So now, and my water is clear. Oh, look at that. Tomato products siphon terribly. So this was my biggest success. The headspace still looks fantastic. And look at that, right up to the 1 inch headspace. Dum, dum, dum. Right next to the other jars, and I'm not all of the jars. I can already tell they've already sealed. So from now on, this is how I'm going to do tomato soup. Do not rush the end. And I can't say that I rushed it, but you know, I took the weight off when I normally do. Yeah, anyway, it's all good. We have beautiful jars with perfect headspace that'll be ready to put on the shelf. After I wash, take the rings off tomorrow and wash the jars, label them, and they'll go on the pantry shelf. And I have 11 pints of the most delicious soup. So let me bring you over, sorry, and let you see. Look at that clear water. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm so excited. So from a somewhat fail, canning on an electric stove is very different from gas. So I've had to learn to adapt to that. There's a much longer cool down period to make sure that you're not going to have siphoning. So I am very thankful for this. I hope this inspires you to, if you haven't done your own tomato soup, please try this recipe. Follow the directions in the ball canning book so you're safe, but there's several, and then you just add that heavy cream and make it, and as long as it's smooth texture, it's divine. All right, guys, I can't wait to see you next time for another delicious recipe using quite possibly some of this soup, but also I'll be using 4 jars lids in any of my canning videos. So don't forget, go down below. There's a discount code, 10% off your complete order. That's crazy. All right. Bye now. So guys, I hope you enjoy this sort of content. And if you do, I hope you'll subscribe and leave me a comment letting me know so.